Today we are talking about real estate scams and how you can protect yourself. Devin, I want to hear you speak about your perspective here.
So as I talked about in my first book, If I Can Do It, So Can You, there was actually somebody else that had tried to rent one of my properties. And by rent, like you could go online and see that they were trying to rent this out, except they couldn't rent it out because they didn't own it. I owned it, or technically my company owned it. And we found this out when somebody came to your office and said, well, here on Craigslist, your property is this price, but it's a couple $100 more on your website. So which one's the real price? And us,
So they put your property on Craigslist, and to make sure people call them instead of your legitimate manager, they put a price that was $200 a month less for rent, correct?
Correct. And so it had confused at least one person who came and talked to us about it. And we're like, well, we didn't put the other one up, so that's not right. And after looking into it, somebody was essentially saying, hey, mail us cash to this address and we'll send you the keys.
All right. So anybody that says, mail me cash, Zelle me money, wiring, they changed the law, so you have to wire to title companies if it's over $10,000. That being said, once you wire money, it's gone. You better make absolutely certain that you're wiring it to the right place. Don't ever let them change their wiring instructions. If they change it at the last minute, assume it's a scam. Once you get it, a hard copy, maybe mailed to you or whatever, call and confirm. Is this really the account number I'm wiring it to? Did you just change this? And thankfully, these people didn't send a couple $1,000s for first month's rent and deposit because they thought that sounds like a red flag, mailing cash in the mail. I'm not even meeting anybody there. I find that if they have a brick and mortar office, it adds a lot of legitimacy. You can walk in, you can see the people, shake their hand, and if they do cheat you, at least you know who did it and where to take the cops to go. If you're meeting them in a parking lot and handing them cash, if you're mailing it, if you're doing one of these online type of payments that's non-refundable, that can cause you heartache and pain. So that was a scam, just advertising a property that they had no ownership in. Lila, I'm sure you dealt with that. What did we do? Because we can't let our company's name be drugged down by these scams. It's in our best interest to stop them as much as the people that are getting scammed. It will hurt us.
And what we ended up doing is calling them on our recorded line. And at first we pretended that we were the prospect and asked about the property. And we asked if they were the owner or the manager. And they said they were the owner. And that's when we called them out and said, well, we're the management company and we know the owner personally, and you are definitely not him. And so then we took that recorded call, because obviously he hung up at that point, and we took it to the FBI. We reported the fraud, gave them copies of everything we had, the screenshots of the ad itself, the phone number that we used, the recorded call, and then we left it in their hands. And unfortunately, they don't tell you what happens after you report it, but they do promise to investigate it. And they did send us an email that essentially said, here's the ways that you can protect yourself. So they were at least taking some action. I just don't know how far that went, but I'd prefer to be reporting all of them so that we've got a better chance of catching and stopping as many as possible.
And Mom, do you have a website or something so that anybody that finds these can report them?
They actually have that on the FCC website. They've got a report fraud button. And if you click it, you can actually report anything, any problems that you've got there, and they will get it to the FBI for investigation.
And that's something everyone should do. If you think you might be the object of an attempted fraud, preferably before you lose your money, please report it. I like that we have a government in some sort so we can report this and they can track them down. If we do it now before too many people lose their money, maybe they won't have a bunch of new laws and regulations where you have to have licensing. In fact, I was just talking to Representative Gross, and she's trying to decrease the amount of training you need to be a licensed agent or at least a broker. So we'll see. That might be changing over the next year or so in Ohio. I just don't think the government needs to monitor everything. I would much prefer to maybe make a law if we had to have that, or just if you were smart, you could say, all right, I have listed this many properties and I have sold this many properties in the last year or 3 years. What's more important, that I went through 30 hours of continuing education 3 years ago, or that I listed 100 properties, I sold 92 of them, and I sold every one of those 92 within 10% of the listing price?